Big Sean, the biggest of Seans. Sean the big man.
Last night took a L, but tonight I bounce back. Wake up every morning, by the night I count stacks.
Big Sean actually has a focus this time round and carries some decent flows on a few tracks, which I will put up on screen right now. And when I say focus, he has at least a concept to follow, which is the idea of rebirth, or sort of the idea of rebirth. Like basically being reborn, or kind of, I don't know, having an epiphany or making a decision that brings you up again with new perspectives, new values. Now this concept sounds really interesting for Big Sean, and it's great to see that Big Sean actually shows quite a lot of promise in terms of a thematic sense on this album, as well as occasionally lyrically. However, again, there are some really spotty lyrics and just some genuine slip-ups from Big Sean from time to time. I mean, Big Sean's known for occasionally having a corny punchline or two every now and then, but here, you know, every time he offers up a decently introspective or interesting set of lines, he blows it with a really corny line. I've got an example here. Cause actually, I realized time is the most valuable actually, so I'ma call my favorite girl and she go and bring that ass for me. Mate, even on one of the better tracks on here called Bounce Back, when Big Sean goes on about bouncing back from maybe a bad moment or just a bad decision, you know, a good concept for a track, but even then he can't help but bring in another punchline about ass, because when you hit an ass, it bounces back. Get it? No. On the track No Favors, Big Sean and Eminem kind of showcase a lot of technical ability, some great rhyme schemes to follow there, but lyrically, very stupid. Well, at least Eminem anyways, because Big Sean does, you know, decent job kind of sticking to the subject matter of the track, whereas Eminem, I know Eminem has always thrived on shock value and controversial, sometimes discomforting punchlines, but here he sounds so desperate for a laugh, or at least some sort of a kick. Referencing people like Ann Coulter and Trump. Very notorious figures in the media and pop culture right now, which, you know, are like oozing material for like a decent punchline, even if it's incongruous to the song's topic at hand, which is a huge problem with Eminem's verse on this track. You know, even then, I just feel like Eminem just does a horrible job of just justifying why he brought up these figures in the first place. He does this with Fergie, referencing her urination incident. It makes you wonder why he even brought them up, if all he does is just name drop them and maybe mention something shocking, even though Eminem's always been known for shock stuff. Here it's just pointless. Big Sean kind of loses track of the concept that this album's supposed to be based around, rebirth. The concept isn't very well outlined or very well explored. In fact, it only begins to really kick in around track 9, and that's really late into the album. Before then, he seems to be fluffing around a lot with unnecessary, unfocused flannel like Moves, a track which contained some of the worst lyrics on the album.
You gotta move, she made that back move, damn. She made the titties move, damn. I made the city move, like whoa, I made the city move.
Past track 10, the album starts to, you know, hit its high peaks. For the most part, it does get a bit soppy because it's the part where Big Sean is or the narrator rather, is gaining like a new perspective, gaining new values, starting to value the people around him more, especially when it comes to his mother with the track Inspire Me. And that was a genuinely heartwarming song, and actually the track after it, featuring Migos, features some very, 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 very good and actually solid, I might even say great, verses from Migos. Not to say that I dislike Migos from the get-go, but personally I've never been a fan of Migos, and to hear them present something that actually impressed me is impressive. However, there still isn't a sense or solid grip on the concept of this record until very later on in the album, and even then, it's not totally gripped. That said, Big Sean does show more promise than ever on this album, and it's great because, so far, Big Sean hasn't exactly been one of the more impressive MCs over the past couple of years, but to hear him actually put out something that wasn't necessarily impressive, to me at least, but at least kind of shows a little bit of potential in him, a bit of growth as an artist, is kind of hope instilling. I feel like there could definitely be a lot more improved, however, a lot more focus on this album. Granted, for Big Sean, that is still more focused than ever. I guess you could say, I decided the racing. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. A 5 out of 10. Yeah!